me a real deal. Pass me a real deal. Pass me a real deal. Pass me a real deal. Hey guys, so tonight on Last Meal Real Deal, I'm gonna be talking with a family friend who's just also one of my mom's coworkers, and just like we're gonna be on our best behavior because she's an elder. Don't tell her I said that. But we are going to be making the last meal of Ignacia Cuevas. We're gonna be making chicken and dumplings, black-eyed peas, steamed rice, eating it with some sliced bread and iced tea, and we are going to just be doing a lot of boiling and simmering. This case is a little bit different because he's not actually the main character in this story. He was just one of the participants. He's actually the only one that survived the 1974 siege of Huntsville Prison in Texas. And we're going to be talking about all the mess that happened there and how he ended up on death row because of it. So we're gonna get to cooking, chopping, all that. So let's go. So the first thing you want to do when you're cooking black-eyed peas is you want to soak them minimum 6 hours if you're using dry beans. You can use canned, like that is literally up to you. But I use dried, and I soaked them for overnight, like the whole time I slept, and now I want to drain them and then we'll get started on developing flavor. So this is how we're gonna make our black-eyed peas. So what we've got right here is a Cajun Holy Trinity. It is basically a mirepoix, but we replaced the carrots with green pepper. So it is white onion, celery, and green pepper. We're gonna saute that up in a big old pot with some bacon, and I use 4 or 5 slices, cut them into like inch and a half strips. I don't know, just cut them. Saute that up, let the fat render out, and then I'm gonna add my pre-soaked black-eyed peas, and then saute that up for a little bit. And then what I'm gonna do is add my chicken broth and get that stirring. Add a little bit more water if you need to, just enough to cover the beans. And then we're gonna add all of our seasonings in. And last but not least, I'm gonna throw a neck bone in there for flavor, seasoning. You can use a ham bone, a ham hock, whatever you want to. This is just what I had on hand. Just gonna throw that in for flavor. Into our black-eyed peas pot. And last but not least, every time I make beans, I always throw at least a pinch of brown sugar into the pot. It doesn't make it sweet. It's not dessert black-eyed peas. It's just, it adds a little je ne sais quoi or whatever. And that's how I make black-eyed peas in my house. As always, if you have an ingredient that you prefer, use that. I'm just gonna show you how I do it, how we're eating over here. And that's that for the black-eyed peas. Crispy garlic's in there as well. I forgot to put garlic in the opening sequence, but it's in there. And then our beans, soaked beans. There we go, that's good. Stir that in, stir that in. Neck bone in there for flavor, And I'm gonna cover that. whole chicken. I personally like white and dark meat in my chicken and dumplings and in my soup as well. If you don't know this, now you know. It is cheaper to get a whole chicken than to get cut up chicken thighs and cut up chicken breasts. It saves your life, and you're gonna get more flavor in your broth. So that's what we're gonna do. Got this whole chicken cleaned, ready to just throw the whole thing into our pot. Took all the giblets out. Make sure you do that if you've never cooked with a whole bird before. So yeah, that's it. We're just gonna let this whole chicken poach, which is just fancy for boil. Okay, so we're gonna get started on our dumplings. You can actually use like crescent dough or biscuit dough or Bisquick to make your dumplings. It is not hard, but this is what it's not hard to make them from scratch. So I'm gonna take like a cup and a half cup of all-purpose flour, and I'm gonna sift it into my mixing bowl just so there's no lumps. Mud, just like that. A half teaspoon baking powder. And we're gonna stir that together. Okay. I'll use more. 2 tablespoons of cold, from the fridge, cold salted butter, and we're gonna cube that up. Just make cubes. So just place them in our flour mixture. Okay, so now you're gonna want to use your best cooking tools, which is your hands, and just kind of work that butter, or shortening. Some people use shortening for their dumplings. Just work that into your dough till it's all incorporated and crumbly. I might need more butter. Yeah, I can tell by sight that I need like another tablespoon of butter. Once all your butter is just nicely incorporated into your flour baking powder mixture like that, you'll be able to feel it, I know. Start with, we're gonna have 3/4 of a cup of milk, and I'm not gonna add all of it at first. I'm just gonna see how much I need, just so we have a nice cohesive dough formed. Yeah, that was enough. I definitely didn't need all of that. So we've got our dumpling dough, y'all. And then we're gonna roll that out. And I'll show you how we do that in a second. I'm gonna wash my hands. We are going to sprinkle flour onto our counter. So in addition to like the 1.5 cups that you need for the dumplings themselves, you're gonna need a little bit just so we can roll our dumplings. Okay, we're gonna press them out like so. Oh, just like that. I'm gonna roll it thin. I don't have a rolling pin or whatever. I use wine bottles, and I just, some people might call it ghetto. I call it upcycling. And you want to just make sure that it's the right, oh, got a little tear there. That's okay, just patch it up. They don't have to be perfect because these are just home style dumplings. They're not And I like to just add a little texture to the whole dish. Just like, and this is fine, you know? They're not gonna be perfect strips. I don't want them to be. I don't need them to be. They're gonna taste great. Okay, I'm gonna cut.
Yes, sir, that's a really good.
That's dumplings with a pizza cutter. Like so, like that. They are uneven, but do you think Miss Jackie's gonna mind? No, I'm looking right at her. She doesn't mind. Boom. These are the dumplings. Make sure they're coated with flour so they don't stick together. So like that. So I've got some rice right here. I'm gonna pour about 3 cups. Just kidding. I have no idea how much I just poured. I poured enough. I know exactly how much I need. And we're going to, for rice, you want to do a 2-to-1 method. So if you have 2 cups of rice, you want 4 cups of water. This is the real foolproof method to cook perfect rice every time. I'll show you. First, you're gonna wanna rinse your rice in the sink twice until the water runs clear. Water's still cloudy. We're gonna drain it, rinse it again. This gets all the starch off of the outside of the rice. So like, I guess when it's been jostled in the bag, whatever. So, but just you won't get gummy, sticky rice this way. Just rinse it until the water runs clear. So that should take like 2 to 3 rinses. It just depends. Okay, so it looks like it's gonna be pretty clear this time. Okay, we're gonna rinse this off one more time. And then, this is what we're gonna do. Forget all that ratio stuff I was talking earlier. What you want to do is, in your pot, have the water, and you touch the rice. Okay, that's not enough. Should be at your knuckle. This knuckle mark right here. Touch the rice, water, meet knuckle. There you go. Perfect rice every time. We're gonna bring that to a boil. This is done. Where are my little... The candle's alive. That's fine. We're gonna bring our rice to a boil. Add a little seasoning salt, stir that in. Some people don't salt the rice. I do. Just a little bit. Comes to a boil, you're gonna put a lid on that bad boy and then turn the heat down. All the way down. Just let it steam. Let it do its thing. It'll come out perfect. Trust me. So ordinarily, I would let the chicken cool and then just take it apart with my hands, you know, get all that meat off of the bone. But we don't have that kind of time today. So 2 forks, get it all off. Just like that. We're gonna put it back into our broth to continue cooking. That's good. I don't know, just do what you want to do. So once we bring this back up to a boil, all our chicken in there, I'm gonna drop the dumplings. And we're basically done now. We're gonna drop our flour covered dumplings. Try and like move them so they're not super close to each other so they don't clump together. You're gonna notice they get thicker at this point because the flour on the dumplings is gonna act as a thickening agent. If you want it thicker, and some people do, you can make a slurry, which is just cornstarch and water. But I like a thinner chicken and dumpling, so I find that the flour, once the dumplings are cooked, makes the chicken and dumplings thick enough for me. But that's just me, y'all. So tonight we're eating rice, black eyed peas, chicken and dumplings, and sliced bread. I have not taken any sliced bread yet, so let me go ahead and. What are you doing? You're dipping it in the.
I dip mine in the chicken and dumpling. It tastes so good.
Actually, people do. I never dip bread in soup, but.
That's funny because you know how you say you guys eat the poo-poo?
Yeah.
And this is what
It's kind of like it does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's delicious. Okay. So, though this is the last meal of Ignacio Cuevas. But the thing is, the story that I'm going to tell you is like, he's not even the main character in this story. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about him before we dive right into the meat and potatoes of the whole. So the last meal that we're eating is Ignacio Cuevas. So his sentence originally, he was sentenced to 45 years for murder with malicious afterthought, which I'm not exactly sure like what that means, but he was in jail for that. And actually, he's not the main character of the story that I'm going to tell. There was another prisoner in Huntsville prison at the same time. His name was Frederico and he went by Fred Gomez Carrasco. And he was a big time like heroin dealer, you know. Mm-hmm. He wanted to be kind of known as like a gentleman criminal. He was very rich. Like he bragged about his wife and his children went to private school and stuff. So he's kind of at the center of this story. So I'm gonna get started and tell you about how Fred Carrasco decided that he was going to try and break out of prison in 1974. I'm telling you the story of the 1974 Huntsville prison siege. It is the longest prison siege in U.S. history. It lasted 11 days. So basically what happened, so let me start with Fred. So Fred Gomez, he's actually serving life in this prison for being just a big time heroin dealer in Mexico and the United States. He is Top Gun, like making loads and loads of money, right? So he's serving a life sentence and does not want to be there. But he's also getting things smuggled in. He manages to get like a gun smuggled in at one point. So he takes over this education building at gunpoint with the help of 2 other inmates. And basically, they lay siege to the Huntsville Education Building for 11 days. It starts July 24th, and it ends August 3rd, 1974. And basically, what they do is every day they just send out requests and demands. They're like, send us guns, or we're gonna kill everybody. And they're like, no. And then they say, send us armored cars so we can get out of here. And they're just like, okay, we can do that. And then before they ask for handcuffs, and they do get to have handcuffs. So they handcuff their hostages, who are just like people that are hired to teach at this prison, which is just, what a nightmare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just want to go and do your job, and all of a sudden you're a hostage for 11 days. Like, crazy. But anyways, so Carrasco is the leader of this whole thing. So once he had what he needed to do in prison, he forced guards at gunpoint to get on the ground, get out of his way, and he took this building hostage. Everybody in it, you are my hostage, this is what is happening. Anyway, so now he's got his two, like, they're not co-defendants at this point. They're just criminals who also want to get out. Like our guy, Ignacio, he's serving a 45-year sentence, and he just, no one wants to be in prison, but like, also just don't kill. But anyways, so they have all these hostages, and according to eyewitnesses, like people that were held hostages, he would tell them, like, every 20 minutes, I'm gonna kill you in 20 minutes, but also was congenial with them. He would take on a different demeanor than he would when he was negotiating with the police. But they were able to, like, hold fast for 11 days. The prison guards would stay there. They would just take shifts. They would just not know when it was going to end and when, like, they were going to make a move. So on the 11th day, which was August 3rd, 1974, that's when they decided, this is the time we're getting out now. So what they did, and they called it a Trojan taco, they kind of created like a protection escape thingamajig. So, you know, like those blackboards that they have in like classrooms and stuff?
Uh-huh.
They made like a thing where they had the blackboards and 600 law books or was like surrounding them, so that, like, as a shield.
Uh-huh.
And then they handcuffed themselves, these three men, to the hostages, and made them a shield as well. And they were like, boom, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna get to the armored cars. And but like the thing is, that's like not what happened. So once they come out of this building with their shield and their like Trojan horse, but it's like not a horse, it's a taco. They immediately like start spraying them with hoses. Hoping to like break the shield. At first, like, it's fine, you know, like shields are shielding, but the water starts to break like through, and then they open fire, and they're like, okay, everything breaks out at this point. The shields fall. They're still handcuffed. The other defendant, whose name I do not know, he shoots one of the hostages in the back. Because, hey, all communication is broke down at this point. Carrasco actually shoots himself in the head, which is what they say. But I feel like that doesn't sound right. I don't know. But 2 hostages died, and 2 co-conspirators died. And then Ignacio, who actually did not fire a single shot, he was the only living, like, he was the only living assailant, like, in the whole, he was, so he actually, the whole thing comes out on him. He is then, his 45-year sentence is commuted to a death row sentence. He's put on death row, and appeal after appeal, it is what it is. It does not like it's on in 1991. He's sentenced to death for the death of the 2 hostages. Their hope for after escape was to get out of there somehow and go to Cuba and just appeal to Fidel Castro's, just be at the mercy of Fidel Castro, and hopefully he wouldn't send them back. And that was their plan, but it did not go that way, because things never do. So the hostages that ended up being shot in the kerfuffle that lasted 22 minutes. One of them was librarian Elizabeth Beceda, and another librarian, Julia Stanley. They actually were just people just trying to do their job and do good work by just providing like their services to prison population, which is like vastly under service. But in return, they came across paths with Carrasco, who just wanted what he wanted when he wanted it. So in the kerfuffle, those 2 hostages ended up dead. The other defendant died as well. I believe he was shot with crossfire by the police officers that were trying to deter them from leaving. And Carrasco is reported to have shot himself. So the remaining person left is Ignacio, and I mean it is what it is. So he's on death row until 1991, and he is put to death by lethal injection. He asked for his last meal, which is a meal that we just ate. So Ignacio, he's the last living survivor of this whole rigmarole. He is the only one, and he gets put to death row for the deaths of these 2 innocent hostages. In 1991, his sentence is acted out. He is sentenced to death by lethal injection, and his last words are, "I'm going to a beautiful place. Okay, warden, roll him." And he eats a last meal of black-eyed peas, chicken and dumplings, steamed rice, and sliced bread. And even though he never actually put a single bullet or shot a single shot in the crime, he was involved, so therefore he is implicated. And what do you think about that? Because I feel like
it's true what they say, guilt by association. And if he had not gone along with the plan, he would not have ended up being accused of the crime.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I don't know. I guess hopefully he according to his last words, he must have found some sort of peace. All we can do is pray for the families of the hostages that did not get to go home to their loved ones. So that was Ignacio Prevo's last meal.
Mm-hmm.
How was it?
It was good, and if you had to cook this last meal, he would have definitely died happy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I like to do is after I feed anybody that comes and visits with me and hangs out with me, I ask them, so what would your last meal be? If you were to do something incredibly heinous, which you wouldn't, but
Of
if you
course
did,
not.
but if you did, what would you want for your last meal?
I would want king crab legs,
Okay.
lobster mac and cheese, and shrimp on the side. And
What kind of shrimp? Butterfly? Steamed?
steamed,
Okay.
not butterfly, no, jumbo.
Oh, gotcha.
And for the vegetable,
Taste, yeah.
I would like I like greens. I like spinach.
Spinach. Okay.
Mhm. So even a spinach salad or just steamed spinach would be like it.
Okay.
I would be happy.
That's a really good last meal. Maybe I'll make it for you.
Okay.
You don't have to like murder anybody for it.
I won't.
I'll just you just You can just come to my house.
Okay. Okay.
So that was it. We just ate the last meal, and like I told you the real deal. And thank you so much for coming and for eating with me and sharing a meal. That's just like one of the most human things that we can do is just share a meal together. We're able to do this together. I'm glad you came over and, you know, ate this person's last meal with me. Just feel like eating together and cooking for people is just like one of the most human things that you can partake in. And even though like it's not lost on me that even though like we're talking about just some of the most inhumane acts, we are still doing something that's very human and humane and just enjoying food and life together. And I just really thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Anytime. Yes.
All right. Like, comment, subscribe. Pass me a real